Okay, good evening. Welcome to Programa Urbanidades. Well, now you see this is our second show in English. We had one, I think it was 2 months ago, with the guys from the engineering course. They were taking part in an international competition. We invited them in and had the show in English. You know, to make things easier, to avoid the need for a translation. But of course, you home know that by now you are seeing subtitles on your screen, so there's no problem in communication. You can even test your English, see how it goes. Not from my side, but from my guests. My guests are here in Brazil, in the city of Santos, most precisely in our university, taking part on this international seminary on restorative justice. This theme, approached by other show you can find on our website, celebrates 10 years of dialogues to change our reality we have in our country. And we had these guests, they were 2 lecturers at the seminar, Professor Chip Coldren. Professor Chip Coldren is the managing director of justice programs for the CNA Institute for Public Research in Arlington, Virginia. And we have Colleen Sheehan. She's a judge working on juvenile cases in the city of Chicago.
That's correct.
So it's a short show. In English, it's going to be even shorter. But I'm going to take the best I can out of your presence here. So, should I call you Chip? Should I call you Mr. Coldren?
Chip is fine.
Chip is fine. So, Chip, how did you get in touch with restorative justice? Tell me a bit of your history on it.
Sure. I started teaching about community policing in the United States around 1997, 1998. And through my connection with community policing, I came into contact with restorative justice. And I learned about it as a way to help organize communities around problem solving around issues of justice. So from there, I went to a different job in the correction system. I worked in the prisons for 5 years. And
does it? I will go interfering.
Sure, sure.
Does it have to do with your background? I mean,
I'm a sociologist. I've been studying criminology and criminal justice all my professional career.
Okay.
So I had an opportunity to work in the prison system as a prisoner's advocate. So for 5 years, I visited all the prison facilities in the state of Illinois, and I got involved in policy matters and legislation and helped introduce restorative justice into policies in the state of Illinois.
Okay. I have here that your lecture today was on public safety, public security, and the police in the United States, right?
Yes.
I guess you've heard that in Brazil, this is a hard issue, let's say. The length the police goes to enforce the law and brutality, and there's rumors of corruption inside the police squads and everything. Well, is there any similarity to what you faced there? How can the situation there be a benchmark, if it can, for us?
Yeah, I believe there are some similarities. Currently in the United States, there's great concern about the activities of police, and there's been several highly publicized shootings of unarmed civilians by police. And so in the United States, there's concern about police use of force and police violence, just as there is here.
Maybe the scale is much different, I mean.
Probably, yes. My talk today about policing was about the goals of the justice system and the goals of restorative justice and the goals that the police have in achieving justice and how they are actually quite similar. And if we worked harder to align the work of the police and the work of the justice system and the work of our communities, we could probably reduce some of this violence.
I'm going to be just guessing here, but from my knowledge of the United States or the times I've been there, and the way the citizen sees the police and their action, or the way the policemen relate to the citizen, it's a more, there's this sense of trust in that job, I would say. And maybe, just maybe, out of the dictatorship we had here, or the role the police was in a way forced to have here during those 21 years of dictatorship, the view the regular citizen has on the police is of fear.
There's some truth to that, but I would say in the United States, there's great variety in how the public views the police.
Okay.
So in many cities, in many places, the police relationship with citizens is rather trustful and rather comfortable. But there are some places, typically in the large cities, in the urban areas, where there's the most violence and the most danger, where there's the most difficulty between police and citizens.
Yes.
Now, I'll tell you this, though. The research tells us that even in major cities, in the United States and elsewhere, 98 to 99% of all citizen contacts with police are positive. Even when police are enforcing the law, they do it in a positive and humanitarian way. There's a very small percentage that are done not so well.
Okay.
And when that happens, that story is told over and over and over again in the communities where they happen. So it's, to the community, it feels like a rash of police actions.
Usually a complaint is stronger in the way it spreads than a compliment, right?
That's typically not the case. Although when we look deeply into the data, we do find excessive use of force. We do find that when police use force and when civilians are shot by police, that they're largely people of color. Yeah. Not always, but the pattern is there.
And you want to have a word on that?
Well, I think that it would depend on which community members you spoke to. Some community members feel that they are served, and other community members feel that they are policed. I think the biggest problem or the biggest conflict that you have is with minority communities and the police. Chip's research, and I'm certain that he's correct in his research, anecdotally, if you are speaking to a group of school kids, teenagers, and ask them if they have ever been stopped by the police and that they're for no reason or that they were disrespected, a great majority of them would say yes. I mean, that's been my experience in actually speaking with students.
But they would say yes just for the sake of saying?
No, I think they would say yes because they were stopped for no reason. You get a lot of complaints where usually a young man will be walking down the street and a police officer will stop, put him on the car, frisk him for no reason. I think that's a very common experience for many members in minority communities in cities.
And in a way, I would say that this kind of incident would inflict this negativity,
yes,
or this negative feel about the police, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, well, we're gonna break here and return in a minute to continue talking with my guests here, okay?
Aí, ó, olha mais uma aí. Para mais uma, qualquer emprego tá bom. A mais uma não está nem aí com o futuro. Para ela, um dia mais, um dia menos, não vai mudar nada. Por que ser mais um se você pode ser único? Vestibular 2016 Católica de Santos. Inscreva-se e valorize a oportunidade de ser único.